Hello, everyone, and welcome to Just Chat again today. Right now, it's pretty cold in Taiwan. It is about 10 degrees right now outside, and it's really cold. I'm wearing a long sweater and a jacket. It's super cold. So, our topic is exciting right now. It's about going on an extraordinary voyage, finding out the limits between out of the ordinary, where possibilities are limitless, right? We are always this morning we talked about how we frame our life, and now we're going to talk about how we can get out of this frame and finding out things more and helping us to find our higher purpose. And which is why our topic today is beyond boundaries, your journey to a higher purpose. And we have our guest today, Brandi Van. Let's welcome her. Brandi, welcome to the show.
Hi,
Hello.
thanks so much for having me.
Thank you for coming to the show. Could you introduce to everyone a little bit about you and who you are?
Sure. So, my name is Brandi Van. I'm actually in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, over in the United States.
Okay.
And I am a psychic medium mentor. And for someone who doesn't know what that is, we all have psychic abilities, but someone who is a psychic is someone who has really developed it, learned how to use it in their life, and helps other people, with healing and comfort. And a lot of times it's very hard and you feel very alone if you have these abilities. So I have decided to become a mentor for other people so that if they are lost or feeling alone, they have someone that can help them develop these abilities.
Uh, that is exciting. That's interesting. There are actually quite a lot of people that I know. Not saying with disabilities, but even without the abilities, they are already kind of lost in their life. Like they don't know what to do or don't know what to expect. And sometimes people get lonely and they don't know who to they go to talk about. Right. So how can what you do help these people
Sure.
in
So,
general?
when, yeah, when I look back at my journey, I was reading a ton of books, I was listening to podcasts, watching TV shows, and nothing seemed to be helping me develop my ability. I still felt like I don't think this can be developed. Like maybe it's just not for me. And then I found a mentor, and I only worked with her for maybe 1 hour a month for 6 months. And whenever I was able to get someone to tell me exactly what they did on their journey and to help me with mine, my abilities just skyrocketed. So, what I do is I take people through a very extensive program. It's 90 days, and I'm there with them every step of the way. I'm their biggest cheerleader, encouraging them and telling them exactly what they need to do to develop their psychic intuition. So, I have everything in videos. I have Q&A calls. They always have access to me. And basically what they're learning is with their psychic intuition, that can lead them to their higher purpose because they have this potential, but they don't know how to tap into it. So that's what's really important is to learn how to tap into it so that they can find their higher purpose, so they can help other people if that's what their goal is, or even just to go on a journey of personal growth and self discovery. However, they want to work it in their lives, I can help them get to that point.
Okay, it's interesting. Would this be similar to something what we call spirituality, something like that?
Yes, it's actually a very similar journey. So, spirituality and psychic abilities go hand in hand because you're learning how to spiritually ground yourself. You're learning how to journal for spiritual growth. You're learning how to protect your energy. And then you go into the next steps of connecting with your spirit guides who are there to help you along your journey. So, yeah, they're very tied hand in hand.
So I don't really usually talk about religion so much on podcasts, but I do need to bring it up a little bit on here. So if we talk about spirituality, is more about believing in God. So for psychic ability, would that be the same thing as well? Because
So,
the
actually,
ability.
spirituality and religion are two different types of thought. So, spirituality is an inner journey, it's about personal growth, self development, and really connecting to the universe or connecting to nature.
Mhm.
Whereas religion is a group of people and they maybe go to church and they worship something and that gives them faith. But a lot of people will think, oh, if I do spirituality or if I develop my psychic abilities, it could be against my religion. But they're actually two very different types of thought. So yeah, it's people can be spiritual and religious, religious but not spiritual. So yeah, they're definitely two different things.
Okay, and you mentioned earlier when we started that everyone has this psychic ability, and we don't know it, right? And so for someone like me who don't know much about psychic stuff, would you say that I have this ability as well?
You do, because we're all born with our five physical senses: sight, hearing, smell, taste, touch. But then we also are all born with our sixth sense, which is our intuition or our gut instinct. So yeah, that's actually your psychic ability, is your intuition. And I've created a free PDF. So if your viewers were interested, they could go to my website, and if they sign up for my email newsletter list, they'll get a fun little quiz. Because really, I think the first step is recognizing what is a psychic ability. So I give them a quiz to show them, for example, if you've ever had deja vu, or maybe if you've ever walked into a room and you feel like a bad vibe, or maybe you feel like someone's looking at you and you turn around and nobody's there. These are actually psychic experiences, but people think they're just everyday human ones. So I think if you don't know what experiences to look out for, you don't realizing that you're having these psychic experiences. You could be having them every day and just not realize that that's what they are.
Okay, so um, to talk about this more, like how can this actually help me with my, let's say, I've been talking about mental health awareness for the past few months. How does this actually, can this actually help people with mental health problems or people who have um, difficulties in studying as well?
Yeah, because it's all about trusting yourself. It's all about that personal journey of self discovery. So, the more you can heal yourself, the more you can release anything that's going on, like, emotional trauma, or do some shadow work. You're really going to release all of that so that moving forward, you don't have all of that trauma. Now, you might not be able to heal it all, but at least you'll be able to work through it. And then also the other side of that is, once you can develop these gifts, almost everyone then moves on to help other people. So imagine if you could heal someone who is, doing physically or mentally, if they're unwell, and you can help heal them just with the power of your mind. Or like myself, I'm a medium, so I can talk to deceased loved ones, and I can give someone some sort of closure whenever they're grieving. So I can give them some sort of comfort. So there's so many different things that you can do to really help someone. And just by helping someone, that can really help your mental health as well.
Wow. Okay. Um, Psychic medium, so you can talk to people who have passed on. I'm not saying I'm skeptical of this. I'm just saying it's something interesting that I have never even think about it before. I do know that, well, movies and stuff, we see all kinds of movies where people uh, get into this and to show people that they've met and stuff like that. um, I'm not gonna ask you how does it work, but I do kind of want to know, like, how does it work in some ways. But at the
Sure.
same time, you know, do people really need to seek closure by speaking to the people who have passed on, or do we is there other ways we can do besides seeking a medium? It's not.
Yeah,
I
I
know
mean,
it's not common in Taiwan. Well, I shouldn't say that. I think people do seek mediums in Taiwan. I mean, just I think it's a little bit different. And the ones here in Taiwan are mostly at the temple, and so you need to go to the temple and you seek them, and then you pay some kind of donation to the temple, and they would do some kind of rituals and stuff, and yeah. So I don't know how you do it, but in Taiwan,
yeah.
that's how they do it. So is it
Okay, yeah,
similar?
that's very interesting. So, here in the United States, there's such a taboo around it as well. A lot of people might think I'm crazy. They might think I'm making things up, but, no one can tell me what I'm experiencing. I 100% know that I am speaking with deceased loved ones. So, how someone would reach me, and I don't do mediumship readings as much anymore, because I really am trying to be a mentor for other people. But they basically, bring their energy in. So I ask them about 24 hours before to start thinking of their loved one, think of memories, think of any questions they might have. And the closure will come from knowing that they're still with us, just in a different way. So they might not be here in the physical world, but they are still with us. They're very much still a part of our lives. And excuse me, the way I can prove that is through validations. So maybe after that person passed away, maybe someone had a child that graduated, and there's no way I would know that. So if I say they were at the graduation, that now gives that person some comfort, because they're like, oh my gosh, like, how would you know that, or how would they have been there? So like that's a small example of how someone can get comfort from that. And then also
Mhm.
they can ask them questions. So maybe there were some unanswered questions during their life, that I can bring those answers to them and really bring them closure in that way. But yeah, it's the same thing. It's like a donation or a price that they pay. But they would just have to like find me. Everything's been through word of mouth. I've never really marketed that side of my business. It just happens that I have clients that come back to me over and over again, or through word of mouth.
Mhm.
But yeah, same thing here. Like, people don't believe it. But yeah, nobody can tell me that I'm not hearing spirit. So
For sure. I mean, it's hard to
yeah,
say not to believe. I mean, it's more like in a sense that I've never experienced it or I've never seen it. I've heard about it mainly through movies, Hollywood movies, and so things like that doesn't really gives a lot of insights to it. And even if I
yeah,
look it up, it still doesn't give me a lot of interesting facts about it, and more about different things. And so
yeah.
and I bet a lot of my listeners as well right now, what if they watch this, they'll be wondering, how is this any different than, like you said, gut feelings? Like anyone could have gut feelings. And so how can I say that my gut feeling is actually my psychic ability? Maybe it's just my gut feeling, right? uh
Yeah.
there's a thing people say, oh, this is women's intuition, right? So and so things like that. So how can I differentiate between that, or do I actually say that is actually what it is, psychic ability, or is it not?
Yes, that's exactly what it is. And I think that's what it is. It's a lack of knowledge, right? So if people don't realize that, if they don't realize their sixth sense is their psychic ability, then they would think it's just their instinct. So that's why it's really important that we talk about this, so people get that education, so that they realize that any intuition, any gut feeling, it's there for a purpose. It's there because that's how your spirit or your soul gives you messages. So how many, like, a lot of people will be like, I knew I shouldn't have done that, right? And they did it anyway. So their intuition was telling them one thing, and they didn't take its advice, and it took them down the wrong path. And that's what it is. It's your soul talking to you, saying, hey, I know something that you don't, that your mind doesn't know. This is what in your heart, this is in your soul. And I'm trying to tell you something. And so it's really important to start listening to that, because your rational mind wants to keep you in a comfort zone. It doesn't want you to go outside of your comfort zone. It's there to protect you. And it also analyzes everything. So if you go with your rational mind, which again, in that situation of I knew I shouldn't have done this, I didn't listen to myself. That's your gut feeling, your intuition, or that sixth sense, your psychic ability trying to tell you something, but your rational mind gets in the way, and you do the opposite, and then you knew you shouldn't have done it.
But sometimes it's like there's a huge risk in following. I would say like your gut feeling, right? So it's like, I mean, logically, people will do this more. Like it's the norms that people do this, and if I do this one, and it will be like, what if I fail? If I go here, then I know what's gonna happen, and so this is like a huge risk, right?
Well, I actually see it as the same as the rational mind. Your rational mind can also give you a big risk. It doesn't know for sure what's going to happen. So I think your rational mind is just as risky as listening to your intuition, because even though you might have all of the data, you might have all the analytics that you need, it still might take you down the right path, or sorry, the wrong path. So I think your rational mind could also be just as risky.
Okay. All right. All right. So let's talk more. Like right now we have established what is psychic medium, right? Or what is psychic ability that everyone has. And you mentioned a couple of times already that this can actually help anyone who's interested in it. So I've actually put a link to the website on right there, brandyvan.com. So if anyone's interested, please go look her up. She also has it on Facebook and also on Instagram. But what I really want to know is, how do you do it? How do you help people? Like I want,
Sure.
for example, let's give a scenario right here. A student who is studying for his exam, um, It's coming up. It's a very big exam, and he's very stressed about it. There's a lot of things going on. Maybe let's say his parents want him to or her to succeed with high grades, right? But he or she felt like this is not really what he or she wants, but she still has to do it. So there's conflicts there between what he or she should do, right? So most people was like study hard, pass the test. After that, you can decide what you want to do. So what would you say, or how would you help a student like that?
Sure. So I think once you go on a journey of self introspection, when you do any of the things in your life to really look at what you want to find your higher purpose, that's what's going to get you the motivation, and that's what's going to get you to say, hey, I'm not going to live my life how other people want me to live. I'm going to live my life to its fullest potential in something that I love to do. Because if you're passionate about something and there's something that you really want to do, you're going to succeed more in that than someone saying, this is what I want you to do. Because, yeah, it might bring you money, but you might not have that fulfillment or that happiness in your life. So, although your psychic abilities might not help you pass that exam, still go for it if that's what your parents want you to do. But in the long run, you will actually be more successful if you go with your gut feeling, if you go with that passion that's inside of you, because you'll put more time into it, you'll be more motivated and inspired to work on it. And then who knows where it could bring you versus being stuck, right? Being stuck in a job that you don't like or in a life that you don't want to be in because you're living how other people want you to live. So it's really important to really look inside of yourself versus looking externally on how other people want you what they want you to do in life. Does that make sense?
Mhm. That's great. We actually cover a lot of things in there. But and then you mentioned another thing that we can go into even more. You mentioned that for working people, working adults, right? I wouldn't say they're not happy with, well, let's say they're not happy with their life. Um, but at the same time, they have the so-called adult responsibility to do what they're supposed to do. But they're not happy with their life, for example, right? Um, would it be like what you are saying right now is to forget about the responsibility, find out what you're more happy with and pursue that, or what were you trying to say in that sense earlier?
Yeah, so not to forget the responsibility. I would never want someone to like not pay bills and, end up on the streets or something like that.
Mm,
But, let's say you work your 8-hour job and then maybe in the evenings you work on what you really want to be doing so that you can get out of that 8-hour a day job to really focus on what you want to do. So, you know, a lot of people get comfortable, and even if they're unhappy, if they're comfortable, they're afraid to take those challenges and risks. But if you can find the time to do it, if you can find the evenings or the weekends or really, any extra time that you might have to pivot, you can get out of that situation and get into a situation that you might love your life, or you might love that your new job. So, it might be extra work, but in the long run, you're going to be happier because you're going to get out of that job that you don't like, and you're going to pivot into a job that you do, that maybe is like your life's calling. And everyone's here for a purpose, and if you're doing something that doesn't bring you that joy and doesn't bring you purpose, then that's a sad place to be in. Then you're not really fulfilling your life and as much potential that you could be having on someone or even yourself.
okay, okay. So let's make it even more like interesting. Let's say I'm already down in my life. I've experienced depression. I've experienced lots of bad things happening to me. I lost my job and stuff like that. So how can this help me?
Yeah, so spirituality is a huge thing for that exact reason, to know that you are part of something bigger in this world, so that you can realize, instead of thinking why is this happening to me, so that your mind pivots to saying what is this teaching me? What am I learning right now that's going to make me stronger? What am I learning that from this mistake so I don't make it again? And how is this going to enrich my life? So it's a different spirituality brings a different way of looking at a negative situation and instead of saying, why is this happening to me? How is this going to help me? And how is this going to help me move forward in my life? So, and that takes a lot, right? Because that's, it's much easier said than done. So it's a lot, like I said, of that self introspection, of that personal journey and development to get to that point. Because maybe you're self sabotaging. Maybe you got into that situation because you have done things to sabotage yourself without even realizing it. So that self introspection, that shadow work, really you got to work through that. And that's actually the first part of my mentorship program, is
Okay.
to get people to change their thinking patterns, to get rid of those limiting beliefs so that they start believing in themselves, to start trusting themselves so they can move forward in a more positive light.
Is that hard to do? Like changing people's mindset?
It is. It's very hard. And, it could take a lifetime. I'm not going to say that magically in 90 days you're going to be healed. But I think if you don't start that healing process, you'll never get there. So if someone doesn't know where the start of that healing journey begins, they're going to be in that stuck position and they're going to be
Mhm.
unhappy. But if someone can get you to realize, hey, this is what we need to work on, right? Whether it's, I'm not a therapist, but maybe it was a counselor or a therapist or
Mhm.
even a close friend that can help them work through things. As long as you start to get on that path of changing your thinking, changing those limiting beliefs that you might have about yourself, then
Mhm.
you're on the right path to try to heal yourself.
So right, I would say right now you are pretty successful, right? And you have reached a stage where you know what you want, right? And you have this psychic ability to help you to jumpstart or help you to get to where you are right now. But how were you before? Were you this? Were you always like this, or were you a little bit down before? And
I was all the way down. I mean, I was like 10 years old and I was hearing spirits talk to me in my mind. I knew it wasn't my thought, but it was my voice. And so, honestly, I thought I was going crazy and I was afraid to tell anyone about it. I was like, people are either going to think I'm crazy, they're going to think I'm making things up, that I'm just saying things for attention. And I was also afraid of it. I was only 10 years old and I was getting these messages and I didn't know who the messages were for, and then I would feel guilty and I knew it was coming from a spirit, but like I didn't want to tell anyone. So fast forward about 10 years, when I was in my early 20s, I had a very profound spiritual experience that changed my life. My family and I were all in my grandma's hospice room. She was passing away, she was about to take her last breath. We were all like holding hands, we were crying, and as she took her last breath, I literally felt her spirit rise above the bed. And it was all from my gut feeling. It was like a magnet in my stomach pulling me to look up above the bed. And when I did, I saw the most beautiful, magnificent colors. I don't even think they are like in this world. And they were so bright and they were forming a star and it was beating in and out like a heartbeat. And that was so profound, and because I was seeing it with my naked eye, right,
Mhm.
it was just so powerful that in that moment, without knowing even how I knew that she was at peace, that she was calm, that she wanted me to see that. And I knew that she was going on to this beautiful new place. I knew her life wasn't ending there, and I also knew I would be able to talk to her again. So much was happening in just a few short minutes. I actually left the room because it was so powerful. And my cousins came out. They thought I couldn't handle how sad it was. And I still didn't tell them because, you don't know where people's heads are. They're grieving at this moment. And here I am having this like amazing experience. And that's really what got my journey started, because it was like, I know I clearly have a gift. I can't and I don't want to ignore this anymore. And I must have this gift for a reason. And that's what really got me into my journey, to figure out how can I help other people who might be experiencing this, but they don't want to talk about it either, because you do get a little bit shunned, or people might think that you're crazy. So now I want to be like the spokesperson for it and tell everyone, let's all talk about this, because it's a real thing and a lot of people have it. It's just that it's unfortunate that a lot of people don't talk about it.
Mhm. So, well, I don't know how to respond to that, but it feels like, I guess it kind of gives you a little bit of sense of comfort. Like you know that your grandmother um, goes to a better place. Um, I don't think many people has the opportunity to actually felt what you felt. That is
Yes.
great for you. Um, in the same way, can we? I don't know how it works, but Does your grandmother ever come back to you in some ways and you can feel it and you understand her after that?
Yeah, yeah. So I can talk to her anytime I want. So it really changed my, like, I don't have fear of death anymore. It really showed me that, she did go on to another place. And because I can still talk to her, again, through my mind, that I know that she's okay and she's still in my life, just in that different way. So it really is very comforting. And I feel a duty to, if I have that ability, to give that to other people as well. So that's why if someone does want to talk to their deceased loved one, I will still do a reading for them, because how can I? There aren't many people who have that. So I just want to clarify something. So everyone has psychic abilities, and a
Mhm.
medium is also psychic, but not all psychics are mediums. So you are
Oh, okay.
born, yeah, you're born able to talk to a deceased loved one or a dead person. You can't teach somebody that. You can teach someone to be psychic and to listen to their intuition and to ground themselves and journal and do all the spirituality work, but you can't actually teach someone how to be a medium, because that's just a gift that some people are given.
Yeah. So that clarifies a lot of things as well. I remember, let's say, I don't know how many years, probably 7 years ago, 7, 8 years back. I don't remember. I lost track of time. But when my dad passed, it was a sad day for me. It was depression. Was I was full of depression more, and it I had to go back and then try to clear his stuff and stuff like that, and get things in order. Um, what I was doing get was what I was doing that and staying at his place. People keep telling me things that I should do in case his spirit comes back, and I'm like, what? How is that even possible? Things like that. And during the nighttime, I actually hear a knock on the gate. I had to do what they told me to say, and I went out there to the gate. I don't dare to open the gate. At the same time, wanted to talk to my dad. At the same time, I was afraid. I don't know what's going on, so I just mentioned out loud what I was supposed to say, and there's no one knocking on the gate. And then the next day, my someone I've never met, and so it was kind of like my aunt or something that I don't even know, right? She messaged me on Facebook and says, "Hey Dominic, your dad came and visited me last night, and is everything okay?" And I guess he just passed on, so this must be. I was like, what? And so I felt like maybe she's a medium right now. Maybe she's getting this messages from my dad while she's having a dream, and so she shared that with me, and I felt like, okay. So somehow it's a little bit comforting, but sometimes for me I feel like it's a little bit scary at the same
Yes.
time. And so,
And
do
that's
you have a lot of
complete.
clients that approach you but are afraid to understand this because it's whole new thing to them?
Absolutely. And that all comes from the fear of the unknown, because
Mm.
you don't know, you don't trust it, right? Like, is it him or is it something else? Like, you just don't know. And so that really comes down to trusting, and believing in spirituality, and believing that once our spirit leaves our spirit lives on. So a lot of people think that we are a physical body with a spirit, but we're actually a spirit with a physical body. And if you think about that, this is just a vessel for our energy, and our energy is a spirit. So just like energy can't be destroyed or created, that's the same thing. So it's kind of like, which came first, the chicken or the egg, right? We don't know, but our spirit leaves our physical body and it goes on to somewhere else, because energy cannot be created or destroyed. Now, in terms of your aunt having that dream, I would love to tell your audience, if they ever have a dream about a deceased loved one, there's a very easy way to know if I'm just dreaming of that person or did I actually have a visitation. And the easy way to know is, if I had the dream and in a couple of days I remember I had the dream, but now I kind of forget about it. And a week later, I completely forget all the details. But if you had a visitation, you basically just created a new memory, and you'll remember all of the details, and you'll remember it for the next 2, 5, or even the rest of your life. So 2 or 5 years or forever. And that's how you know it's a visitation, because
Mhm.
if you can remember every detail and you remember it from years from now, that's how you'll know it's a visitation. There is something called telepathy. And so your aunt might have
Mhm.
had that as well, where the mind of your father actually went to her mind and was able to give her that dream. So there's kind of like it goes into a lot, but there's precognition dreams, there's telepathic dreams, and then there's visitation, and they kind of mold. And whatever label you put on it, it's just a label. But I think the more important thing is that she did get that message, that she doesn't even really know you, but she knew that he wanted you to know that, because she would not have shared that information with you if he wasn't compelling her to tell you that information. So I think that's the big takeaway there for you, is that he wanted you to know that, whether it gave you some comfort or healing, but
Mhm.
I think that he wanted you to know that for sure.
But at the same time, it was kind of interesting because she doesn't know that she passed on. Well, my aunt
Mm,
doesn't know that my dad passed on, and so this was kind
yeah,
of like suddenly I'm like, oh, it's like for me to understand that now, it's like, wow, okay, so it must be there must be something real there, and so, but
yeah,
at that time was kind of like I was shocked and still in shock, and don't
yeah,
know how would that help me.
yeah, absolutely.
You mentioned earlier that this is a gift to you, and I would say for some people as well, this could, like you mentioned, people are afraid of this gift, right? And everyone has, in some ways, right? In some ways, everyone has this psychic ability, and people are afraid of the unknown, afraid of it, and so, and you're saying that you could help us tap into it and to improve our lives, right? But at the same time, I feel like there are people who will go to you and seek your help, but at the same time, like you said, fear of the unknown, they will not go, I don't know, tap into it so much. And would this how does it help at all if we are unwilling to to believe in it? Would that still help? For example, in religion wise, right, people will say, even if you don't believe in it and you still do the work, it will come to you eventually somehow. But in this case, would this be the same?
It is in the terms of, if someone 100% does not believe in this, if they're like total skeptic or critic, it's most likely not going to work, because that's the first step. You must have an open mind. And then also with the open mind, you have to have an interest in it. I mean, just like anything, if you're not interested in basketball, you're not going to play basketball. So it's the same thing. You need to have an interest in it. You need to be open minded. And it's really unfortunate, because I think the fear comes from movies where, there's these negative energies that are like black, and they come in and they, give lots of, like I was saying before, like poltergeist or something like that. I
Mhm.
think these
Don't go into
movies.
that. It's already midnight here in Taiwan.
Okay.
Dark and scary.
So
I
yeah,
want to
I
sleep
think
tonight.
I think that that's what really does it. Like those movies that show us that there's like all these negative energies out there
Mhm.
and they're coming to get you. But if you can see it as a loving space, right? Because your deceased loved one loved you in this life. So of course they're not going to harm you in the afterlife. They're here to help. So I think it's just a matter of keeping that open mind, and instead of thinking of all the bad things that can happen, because our nature is to fear the unknown. But if you trust yourself, like I was saying before, if you go through that self introspection journey and you
Mhm.
trust yourself, you start to trust your spirit guides, and then you trust spirituality. So it's very, it's a long journey of really believing and trusting and having that faith that if something from the unknown comes, that you'll be able to handle it, and it's not something scary. So I think that's a big myth, that people kind of have in there, that it's something scary, but it's really actually something beautiful and amazing.
Okay. Well, I would say okay. Yeah, I'll agree to that. This is very interesting. I was reading your one of your intros earlier. Oh, well, earlier yesterday, I would say. You mentioned that using this GIF is sort of like a navigating us to into our life, right? Kind of like a navigator, right? GPS or something.
Yes.
How does it do that? are you able to explain that a little bit more? How does having these abilities guide us to where we need to go? Besides, meeting people who have passed on and stuff, but how
Yeah.
can, yeah.
Yeah, your ability will guide you because it is your intuition, like I was saying. So it is your spirit or your soul that's guiding you because, even before, and this goes into like reincarnation and going to the spirit world, but even before you were born, you know what your purpose is here because we all do have a purpose. And your spirit is the one that knows that, not your rational mind. And your spirit
Mm.
lives in that gut feeling, and that's what's going to guide you. So you really need to listen to that to get to your higher purpose. So yeah, that's the easy way of like saying it. So just think of it as you have a rational mind, and then you also have your spirit, and there's a battle that goes on there, right? Because your rational mind wants to keep you safe, and your intuition wants you to take those risks because it knows why you're here, what your purpose is, what your meaning is, and it wants you to get there. But your rational mind comes in and says, there's no science on this, you're making things up, this is not real. And so it's that battle that a lot of people have between, should I listen to my intuition and do what my gut's saying, or should I listen to my rational mind? And so I really help people to listen to their intuition and to guide them because it's always going to guide them to the right place.
I guess that explains a lot, because that means we to get to a higher purpose, like you mentioned, that we all have this purpose. We just have to listen to what our gut feeling is telling us, and I guess that is actually kind of helpful in making decisions in our
Yes.
life as well. I remember when I was in college, I guess, yeah, college, right, when I was 20 something, I had to make a decision whether should I go continue my career in New York, or should I try a new move to a different country in Taiwan? And that was, I guess, kind of tough to decide, because rational mind says if I go to New York, is better, the career is better and everything, and my gut feeling said me maybe I shouldn't go there. I should go to Taiwan and try something different. And so, well, I went for my gut feeling, obviously, but still,
Good.
the time where that decision has I have to make that decision is actually pretty hard. Um, Yesterday, I had an opportunity to visit one of my students' family, right? The parents. They have, and the principal of my school actually came with me to visit this student of mine. They had, well, I didn't expect this, but I thought we were just gonna talk about the welfare of the student itself. But the principal actually talked about what they want for her in the future. I mean, for me, I was like, what? How can the mom decides this in this short instance? And so I was put on the spot, and I felt if this was me on the spot, I don't think I can answer that question. I don't think I could put so much power of decision right at this few seconds, right? And so I guess in some ways, if we have this ability that we have that you mentioned, if we're able to channel it, and that means we can make decisions easier.
Yes. Yeah. So I would love to let your listeners know how to listen to their intuition. It's a four-step process. If I could, would you mind if I help
Yes,
talk
please.
on
I
that?
was gonna ask you that later on. Yeah,
Okay,
but
great.
yes.
So yeah, feeling or listening to your intuition is a four-step process. So the first thing you have to do is ask it a question. If you don't ask a question, you're not going to get an answer, right? And so
Right.
you'd want to start off small. Maybe like, should I eat a hamburger later for dinner or a salad, right? And maybe your rational mind wants the burger, but your intuition says salad. You want to go for the salad. You don't know why. Maybe it's going to give you more energy tomorrow, or maybe you're going to lose a couple pounds. So, but you want to listen to the intuition. So, first is ask it a question. The next one is you want to feel for the answer, and you're going to feel it somewhere in your body. And that's why you want to ask little questions first so that you start to recognize what that feeling is in your body. Maybe it's a tingling in your spine, or maybe you get like the butterflies in your stomach, but you'll start to feel it or hear something that's like, I don't think I just thought that, but it's just like, it's very quick, it's instantaneous, it's going to answer you in 4 seconds. Once you get to that fifth second, your rational mind is now in the way and you've missed the intuition boat. So it's
Hmm.
something very quick and instant. So you're going to ask it a question, then very quickly within 4 seconds, feel the answer and get used to what that feeling is, so that when you ask a bigger question, you'll know that feeling. The third step is that you need to then trust it. Because again, like I've been saying, you need to trust your spirit. It knows where to get you in this life to get to your higher purpose. So you want to trust it. And then the last one is to act on it. Because if you don't act on it, why did you go through any of the steps anyway? So that's just a very easy, quick way to start listening and feeling how your intuition is trying to guide you in your life, because it will help you make those decisions. Because if your mind gets in the way and it's saying New York, New York, right? But your feeling is no, I should stay in Taiwan. That's why it's so instantaneous, because your mind will start analyzing every little detail and looking at the risks and all of that. So if you can just go with that feeling, that's what you're meant to do. That's where your spirit's guiding you. So that's a very easy 4-step process that people can really try every day or a few times a day. Start small, and then you can ask the bigger questions in your life.
You mentioned, if I were to think about food, I wouldn't go for the salad. I would just go for the burger immediately. I'm like, nah,
No.
skip the salad, go for the burger. I'm not gonna even think about it. But I feel like this is kind of like a cheat code as well for my students. If they're having a test, there are multiple choices. How do you, which one do you pick? That's like a cheat code right there. She just gave you a cheat code, guys. Um, but yeah, I think we all, everyone is seeking for a way to help us better make decisions in life, and some decisions are actually pretty hard to make. Like I mentioned, um, the parents have to make decision for the students, for their children, for what they want to do in the future, and or which school to go to, and this is kind of big decision. And in my, I mentioned in my life in that time, whether I stayed in America and move on to New York, or whether I move to a different country, like Taiwan, or go back to Australia, and things like that is kind of huge decision to make, and sometimes it's not easy to make. Um, I'm glad we have this chat today. That means in the future, whoever gets to see or watching this right now will have an idea of their psychic ability, and will contact you for more information. At the same time, if they don't, at least they have an idea how they can navigate and make better decisions in their life. I think this is very beneficial for my children as well, because right now they're at the age, well, still at the age where I can protect them, but in a couple more years they'll be out of my house. They have to make bigger decisions, besides what to eat. They have to make decisions on what to do for their job, or what they have to do for their studies. I think this will be very helpful for them as well, and also for my students. Now we have a good chat. I need to wrap things up. You mentioned your 4 steps. Now, what if there is a saying that you could say in 10 seconds? In 10 seconds, what could you say to help my listeners or viewers out there in changing their life right now by achieving psychic ability and improving, finding the higher purpose?
Sure, yeah. Keep that open mind, and there's so many things in this world that cannot be explained, and maybe we'll never understand them. But if you're always going to look for that explanation or understanding, then you're missing out on a big part of life, because there's a lot out there that we just don't know about. So keep that open mind. I mean, 100 years ago, if someone told us we had the internet or a cell phone, they would have thought that person was crazy. So, and
Yeah.
now look at us. So yeah, just think of that. There's a lot of things that aren't explainable or that you can understand in this life.
That's it. Open mind, keeping an open mind. And sometimes I will add into it as well. Be humble about it. Because once we realize what we want in life, or what we want to do, we have to, well, take the step. And when we take the step, to not be afraid about it, and just be more willing to learn, or take the next step after that.
Yeah.
So yeah. Well, that's it, and that's great. Thank you again for coming to the show. I think I've learned a lot. I think my viewers also have learned a lot, maybe. Um, but for anyone else who are more interested, the website is right there, Brandi Van, or www.brandyvan.com. It's right there. So just look it up and go there. I saw somewhere, is there like a free book or something that you were gonna share with them,
Yeah,
or
that was the free PDF that I was talking
PDF?
about, the free
Okay.
ebook. Yeah, so they go to my website and they can sign up to receive that so they can really distinguish what is a psychic experience so that they can realize that we actually all do have these. It's just a matter of knowing what to look out for.
There we go. So everyone, please go and do that. And thank you, Brandy, for coming to the show again. So I
Yes,
wish
thank you so much.
thank you so much. Everyone, if you like this episode today, please like and subscribe again and share this video as well. Stay tuned for tomorrow. We have more things to talk about tomorrow at the same time at midnight. So please, everyone, have a great night. Stay warm in the cold weather. Um, it's very cold. Put lots of jacket on and stuff. So thank you again, Brandy, and thank you everybody, and have a good night.